kids. Welcome to Blooming in a Cage, a podcast for humans. I'm so glad you're here. I'm your host, Robin Stiers. Welcome to the stream, whether you're watching us live. And if you are, pop over to the chat and tell us hello, howdy doody, or whatever language you're speaking in. Hello, which maybe I won't understand you. I do know a few hellos in different languages, but most of them I screw up and would say gracias for grazie or something like that. If you understand that joke, you're a member of my family and you're welcome to my children for that. I hope you guys are having a great night. It is so hot here in the Northeast. I was saying today to a couple of my volunteers that come, I have some high schoolers that come and college age that come and volunteer on Wednesday mornings for food pantry prep. And I was like, they were talking about how deathly hot it is here in Southern Vermont. And like my car today, when I got in it, it had been sitting in the sun in my driveway and it said 112 was what the temperature was. And we went from like monsoon in the 40s and 50s to 115. I don't know. But I said we complained when it was raining and cold. And now it's dry and hot. And what are we doing? Complain. So basically, New Englanders at the heart, we just complain no matter what the weather is. If it's cold and snowy, we want hot weather. And then when hot weather comes, we want the fall. And then when fall comes, we want summer back. And then we'll complain again when it's winter. We don't ever really want winter. I mean, there are a few people that like winter that live in New England. I think those are the people that do winter sports, which is not me. I was not made to go on fiberglass down a mountain or be on sharp blades because I have weak ankles. So I do like the heat, but this is like unbelievable bereavement. I need to just go sit in the lake or something, but I have to like do stuff, which today when I was at church doing food pantry prep, it was like unbelievably hot. Even in the basement of our church, which is typically like a little cooler, it's a basement, doesn't have any windows, but I did see Pastor Brian out with a bunch of fans, which I did hear this past Sunday. It was like deathly hot. We are not some bougie church. We don't have air conditioner. Okay, we have box fans in our windows. That's the kind of church we are. And we're old. The building is old, not the people. I mean, there are old people there, but the building is old and it's hot and sweaty. And it was just miserable. And I was at camp. I skipped church. I was a sinner. Just kidding. I wasn't. It doesn't make me a sinner just because I skipped church. But we went to White River Camp this past weekend, and it was so nice. It was Quechee Balloon Festival, which we did not go to, but everybody else in the Northern Hemisphere was there. We went to the Norwich Farmers Market, which is one of my favorite places. If you go to the Norwich Farmers Market, go see the pickle guy. He's right on the right hand of the side. You can't miss him. And I also want to give him business because not only is pickles delicious, but I had a hat on that says he still does miracles, one of my favorite hats. And he said, yes, he does. Aren't you thankful that Jesus still does miracles? And I was like, I'm buying pickles from you because you're a cool dude. I like your pickles. And now I know that you love Jesus. So I'm going to give you my business. But there was a lot of people in Norwich. We were up. We did a few things for camp, got the water onto the dorm. Well, I was not involved. I do not want to put anything out there. My husband and our friend Melvin, who is our water committee, got the water on, which involved climbing underneath the dorms. That's not going to happen. There's spiders and crap under there. That was not happening. I did supervise from across the field and watch them do it while I was playing with squirt guns with my nephews. But anyways, summer camp is coming up the first week of August. If you want to come up for evening service, our evening speaker is Jim Loomer from down in Milford, Connecticut. He's a great man of God, a tremendous speaker. You'll glean from him. You never quite know where Jim is going, but he always lands the plane really well with a solid truth. I will say that I have a number of sermons that I've heard Jim preach over the years at different places, and I can still recount them. Strong truth. So that says something about the quality of preaching that he has, that it sticks with you. He does it in a creative object lesson, real life story that you can connect to. All from track 2, track 1, when heaven and earth collide, from the anointing of God, the beard of Aaron with the oil, and he actually poured olive oil all over this guy's head. And you're thinking, didn't Pastor Mike just do that if you go to our church? Yeah, he did. He probably stole the idea from Jim. It's fine. It was a great idea. And then our adult Bible teacher is Bill Vanderbush, who we've had here on the podcast. If you're up during the day, 10:45 in the morning, Bill is the preacher for the adults. I'll be teaching the teens. We're looking at the life of Paul. If you want to get rid of your teenager because you don't like them, no, I'm just kidding. If you're looking for a summer camp, we actually do have some bunks. I calculated today, 30% of our beds are already full. So if you want to send your kid to camp, it's $225, which comparatively, when you look at the United States, for camps, this is a full service camp. You sleep, you get fed, you have activities, the whole 9 yards, slip and slides, swimming at the state park, the whole 9 yards. It's a pretty cheap camp for the ages 12 to 18. If you want to send them, I'll send you the registration link and you can get them signed up today. Which brings me to the next point. If you want to help send a kid to camp, I got a long list of campers whose parents need financial help to send them for the week, and every kid should get to experience summer camp at least once in their life. So if you're interested in helping send a kid, you can either hit my Venmo wire and just let me know it's for YPI, or you can send me a message and I'll send you the information to be able to directly give to the camp and the whole 9 yards. Or you can just reach out to me for more information on White River Camp. The next thing I want to say, and I'm going to repeat this at the end, is that this is my last show. And you're like, what? No, not forever, kids. I'm taking the month of July off, and then the first little bit of August, I'll obviously be in White River. So I will not be back until the middle of August. But I already have booked a really great guest, which I'm not going to even give any sneak peeks, who has a tremendous story of coming out of witchcraft and the occult and some sexual abuse, a really powerful testimony. We chit-chatted yesterday on the phone. Her first name's Annette, and I'm very excited to have her on in the month of August to come back to a tremendous time. And that brings me to this. If you have somebody, because how I met Annette was a friend of mine sent me a message and said, hey, my friend Annette has a great testimony. She just wrote a book. I think she'd be a great guest. If you have somebody in your life or in your circle, your church, or somebody that you've heard of that you would like to have on as a guest, or you think they'd be a good fit for us here at Blooming in the Cage, send me a message. Connect me with them. I would love that. I don't know everybody. I know a lot of people. There's a lot of people out there that have great testimonies, great stories, great ministries that need some exposure. And I got a little circle of friends here, not a big circle. We're growing though. Today I just got another follow. Oh, okay. So we got a little circle of friends. So if you are have somebody in your life that you think would be a good fit for us here at Blooming in the Cage, and maybe that's you. Maybe you have a testimony that you want to share, and God's been prompting you to share that. Send me a message. Then I won't have to look like a beggar calling my friend like I did today, my friend that's going to be on here in a minute, and go, you want to get on my show? Makes me look kind of pathetic. Like, you want me? You like me? You want to hang out with me for an hour? You know, I do have friends, I'm just saying, but not all of them want to get on the air and air their dirty laundry and history, life, and all the bumps and bruises that they've had. But I was talking to my friend when we did our test the other day. I'm getting ready to bring my friend Veronica in here. And I said, you know, we overcome the enemy by two things: the blood of the Lamb. Thank you, Jesus, for the work of the cross, and the word of our testimony, sharing the good and mighty things that God has done in our life. And sometimes that means exposing things in our life and being transparent with our story. And I'm excited that I have my friend here. If you are here in the chat, which I can see you people lurking in the darkness, just walking, probably because you don't know me and you're waiting for my friend to come in here in a minute, pop over and say hello. And then me and Veronica won't have to feel like we're just talking. But girl, we've had some chats in our day. Okay. And we probably will fill up the next 50 minutes here chatting, and you guys will be like, we're here, we're involved, we're trying to answer you. And I won't even look at the chat, but pop over the chat here and let me know that you're here, that you want to hang out with us, and maybe how you know Veronica, or how you know me, or how you're keeping cool. How I'm keeping cool right now is that you can't see, but I have an ice pack in my back because I'm in our spare bedroom that doesn't have AC. It's really hot. I'm going to bring my friend Veronica in. Veronica, welcome to Blooming in the Cage.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. I'm going to open our chat here. So a bunch of people will come into the chat and tell us they're here. I can see them lurking. There's this little number up in the top that tells me how many people are watching. But then they don't ever pop in. They're gun shy. They just want to stalkers. Oh, here's my friend Debbie. Oh, there's my friend Debbie. You would have to host me for about a week if you want my story. Well, Debbie, we'll have a series. Okay. It'll be me and Deb for a series. Seriously. I am happy to tell, because I believe strong in the word of the testimony that God gives us. And actually it tells us in Exodus, right, to always remember the wonderful works of God. And I think not only for others, but for us. Like today, I sent my friend a message. I put an unspoken prayer request on my Facebook, and I'm going to ask you. I have a friend who's walking something awful right now. I'm not going to say she's walking something awful. And I had to send her some verses today right away and just remind her of the goodness of God. And that even though we might not know what's going on and we might not have all the answers, God does. And she replied back to me, God's not surprised, right? He's not surprised by anything. So welcome, Veronica. I was thinking, Veronica Rizzi. I was thinking the other day, because actually you used to live your childhood home. I saw in your Facebook that beautiful picture of you and Becky. I'm sure Becky appreciates you putting the picture of her. She was like probably 8 or 10 there in that picture.
Yeah, about that.
That I used to go to your parents' house on the 3rd of July and for fireworks and loud music that rock and roll. Oh, Megan Chase here, your friend, is commenting, we love Veronica.
Aww. Megan, I love you too.
Not just stalking, but let me see. I think probably you were probably about that age of that picture when I met you, maybe even a little bit younger, huh?
A little younger.
Yeah. I was thinking, boy, we've known each other a long time. Let's just age each other. There's been a lot of seasons of life.
Yes.
That we have done together. But I loved your precious mom and dad who are with Jesus, thankfully, and together. But I had a lot of fun. I never did not have fun at your house.
Right.
That's what I'll say.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we always had a lot of fun. I miss those times too.
Yeah, so. Yeah, they were good, great parents, great host. My brother Andy has a blog about hospitality, and I would say that's something that your parents always had. And I'm not airing any dirty laundry that anybody that knows you, but maybe not. I said to Wayne the other day, we were driving through Hinsdale, and we were talking about having you on, and I said, Art and Mary Ellen, I said, they were the kind of people, if they had one sandwich, they'd have cut it in half and been happy to share it with somebody else. That was the kind of home I think that you grew up in, correct?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Anytime anybody came over, hey, you guys hungry?
Yeah.
There was always plenty for everybody.
Right, exactly. God always multiplied little. At least, and that's my experience in my own home too. And your parents were very willing to share whatever they had, whatever that was, and be in need. They were there. I could always trust if we needed something, or my parents needed something, call Art and Mary Ellen. They would have done it. Your mom used to watch my little brother Andy.
Yeah, I remember.
Who's almost 40. Okay, so I'll say
I used to watch Andy too.
You just turned 39. Woo! Time flies when we're having fun. So that's how we met. You came to the Chase. We grew up in the same church. Yep. I mean, essentially, we do. Our parents were involved, and there's Connie Jones, Auntie here. Love
Hi,
you.
Auntie.
Oh, and here he is, my brother, who we both used to babysit. That's an effect. That's for me, in case you're running the Hey Nerd. Okay. That's a pet name. He wouldn't call you that. He would call you V. He would call you V. Right. Yeah. Right. So we met in childhood, I'd say adolescence. I'm a little bit older than you.
Yeah, we're not going to say how much.
No. It's fine. We're a little bit older than you. And we met and grew up in the same church. Yeah. And have kind of shifted in and out of each other's lives in adulthood. That's what I'll say, like in times in different ministries. And then your family in the 90s moved over to Grace Fellowship Church.
Fellowship.
I'll get there.
Yeah.
Too many churches that I know with the name Grace in it. So I was trying to filter them out. My brother said that's a fact. I hope you're talking about knowing each other, not me being much older than Veronica. And so your family moved there, and that's our sister church, and ministered there for a long time. I know that your dad's death was a big loss to Matt. He was a tremendous part of that. And then we did ministry together. I was thinking, Veronica, my favorite memories is you and Kristen. Full disclosure, Veronica and I like to make fools of ourselves. Okay, that's and sometimes we did that in public. Sometimes we did. People invited us to come make a fool of us in public. Yes, my brother said that's all of us, to all of us. So we did theater together in different forms, passion plays and skits. And I remember you and Kristen, believe it or not, we did Abbott and Costello's Who's on First.
Yep.
And what I will never forget is you guys trying to rehearse your lines and just cracking up for hours on end.
Mm-hmm.
And then not even getting them right on stage, and no one cared. That's the funny
right.
thing, is no
Yep.
one cared. It was a lot of fun, and we did that for a long time.
We did. That was so much fun. I miss those days. Oh my gosh.
A lot of fun in our younger, wilder years. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
Footloose and fancy free. Seizing every day and every opportunity to do tremendous ministry, but always done with that we as Christians can let our hair down and have a little fun.
Yep.
and do things that are really, we did it. We talked about who's on first because that's really about our relationship with Jesus, about
It is, yeah.
who's on first. Even Abbott and Costello might not have known that, but we did.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how you and I met. And then you moved away. You went to college in Texas, right? Christ for the Nations. Yep. When was that?
That was 2001 to 2002.
Yep. And I think that's kind of when our lives kind of went, ooh, okay, Veronica's over here. She's in Texas. And then I pop up every once in a while your year. And I was having kids. And
yes, you were.
having moms and being busy and going through life. And then you kind of came back on my radar a little bit. And we're back here in the Northeast. And then now you're over in Keene, New Hampshire, which I'm glad to have you kind of back in this hemisphere, right?
Thank you.
And you're living and working at House of Hope, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about House of Hope and what you do there.
Well, House of Hope is a 6 to 8 month faith-based program for women who are overcoming life-controlling issues such as substance abuse, sex trafficking, domestic violence. So what I do here, for those of you who don't know, I actually went through the program. My struggle was more of, I just lost all hope. I lost all hope. I lost my job. I lost my apartment. I lost my car.
You needed hope again.
I needed hope again, and my only option was to move back home from Texas. I loved my life there, but I ended up getting in contact with Phyllis here at House of Hope, and I actually graduated the program a year ago. This past Monday was my sister calls it my hope anniversary.
I love it. Time flies when you're having fun, because I remember coming to see you early in those.
Yes.
Yeah,
quite the difference now, all right?
Quite the difference. Amazing.
So what I do here now is, so I graduated June of 2024 from the program, and then in September I was brought on as the administrative assistant to the director. So I help her in the office, which I absolutely love because I'm getting to help the ladies, and I'm also doing what I'm good at, which is organization and bookkeeping. And
I'm not good at.
yeah. See, I'm really good at the administration stuff.
Yeah.
And then in February of this year, I was voted on as the secretary of the board of directors for the house.
Amazing.
So God's doing some amazing things.
So House of Hope is not just a recovery house, and I think that's in the sense of substance abuse, and I think that makes it unique.
Yes.
But you can also bring your children with you, correct?
Yes, women can also bring their children here, which is unique in itself because most programs do not allow that. But we want to keep the mothers and their children together. One of the things that our director works on with women who have lost their children is getting them back.
And it is really unique because a lot of people will say, well, just put your children in foster care and then go and get your life put together. But that's not easy. Once your children are in the state's custody, it's not. And I've walked some of that because I have family members who have been foster parents and adults, and it's even moms who love or dads that love their children very much and and they're not bad parents, they're just addicts, and there's a difference. And addiction doesn't make you not love your children, it just limits your capacity to show that. And I think that's unless you've worked with people who are addicted or have struggled that yourself, it's very hard to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
You can love your children and still be addicted to heroin. And,
Yep.
it's a very slippery slope once your children, and I say that because it's not a cut and dry. There's lots of check marks, and it's traumatic to the children for them to go into
Yes.
foster care.
Yep.
And I'm not saying foster cares are bad, but it's traumatic for the relationship and the bond that children have. I remember very distinguishedly some parents who lost the rights to their children, and they were going to be turned over while they were in my mom's childcare. And I can remember as a teenager standing in the backyard with these little girls and boy being ripped out of our arms by this man that they didn't know. So I love that House of Hope and Phyllis there, that you guys offer women to be able to go through treatment and recovery with their children, because their children
Yes.
need to go through it too.
Yep.
It's a shared experience. And a lot of times parents go through that and children are dealing with their own issues, living with somebody else who's not their mom.
Yep.
That leads to distrust when they go back. Is mom going to slip up, or all these things, because they're not walking that.
Yep. Yep. That's true.
So that's unique.
Yes. So, one thing that also makes us unique is the fact that everything we do is based on Scripture. You've got to have that relationship with Jesus. Without the relationship with Jesus, it's just another program. We encourage the ladies to really press in. This is what we're doing. This is how we're going to help you. We're giving you the tools to be able to have a prosperous life. Jeremiah, one of my favorite scriptures, Jeremiah 29:11, it says God has plans for us that we can't even imagine.
Yeah.
And they're to give us a future and a hope.
Yeah.
So that's what you find here at House of Hope.
And there's so many people that are without hope, Veronica.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, when you landed there, you were without hope. And you know that I run our food pantry, and I live in Brattleboro, an area that just on a regular basis, you encounter people who are lost without any hope. So
Yes.
why change? Because what am I changing for?
Exactly. Yep.
That's it. There's no, why should I even try
Yep.
to change? Because it's a hopeless situation. One thing that I was thinking about is this man that I know that was homeless, and he's an addict, and he went to our state Suboxone clinic, and he didn't have insurance because he didn't have a home, so he didn't have state insurance. And that's a big thing that people don't understand in Vermont. If you don't have a residence, you don't get state insurance.
That's right.
And so they said, well, it'll be $95 for a month of Suboxone. And I have my own fixed feelings about that. You can decide for yourself, but really my goal is get clean, however that happens. But they said it was $95 a month. Well, he didn't have $2. Never mind $95. Right. And then they said, but you go to Rite Aid, probably get it cheaper. So the system is set up for people. The state system, the world system, for the most part, is set up for people to fail.
Yes.
It really is. And that's why places like House of Hope and Teen Challenge, which I'm a big proponent of, and I know a lot of the model that Phyllis uses is based off that. Yes. It's to give people hope, because ultimately the only hope that we have is in Jesus. It's not
That's right.
it. So I am so excited. One, when I heard that you were going to be here, I thought, whoo, my brother says here, you can live for a while without food or water, but it's not that way with hope.
Amen. Yep, I agree, Andy.
So, so what led you to House of Hope so what led you to be without hope? This lady who was raised in the church by two godly parents, right?
Involved in ministry.
And I say that, and that's not a dig at you, to say that we get cocky sometimes and think that would never happen to me.
I know for me that was something I did say. I remember vividly now looking back, like Teen Challenge would be at the church, and I'm like, oh, thank you, Jesus, I'm never going to end up at a place like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happened is I ended up.
1 second. Debbie, I will put that information up here. It's located in Keene, New Hampshire. I'll be happy to give you a flyer on Sunday, but I'll send you House of Hope's link. They're located in Keene, New Hampshire. But I will have their link, because she wants to know how to send that information to others. So don't want to miss that. So anyways, What led you here?
So what happened is I found myself in an abusive marriage. Um, Everything was going fine and dandy. I mean, you even met him.
Yep.
Everything was great until about 6 months after. Then the physical abuse started. We were married about 3 years. I had to get out. I knew he wanted to kill me, so I ended up having to get out. So I get out. I'm doing my own thing. That's when I really went whoop, and I started seeking male attention wherever I could get it. I got in another relationship really fast. We moved in together.
Rebound.
You know,
Yep.
he was a decent guy. We'll have to say he was a decent guy, but he wasn't Christian. I was not going to church. I had fallen away from that, partly due to my marriage, just the controlling side. He didn't allow me to go out very often, so it was like if I went out, it was like an hour at a time, unless I was at work. But I ended up having lost my car. I had to walk to work. Texas heat, you don't want to walk in the summertime with black shoes.
Yeah.
I ended up getting a blister on my foot. It was a 2-mile walk. Okay, I got this. I can deal with this. Well, the blister got worse and worse and worse and got infected. I ended up losing my pinky toe and then my fourth toe and then the metatarsals. So, of course, I couldn't go back to work. I'm down. I'm depressed. I can't do anything. I can't go back to work. Money's running out. I already lost the car. I had to surrender my dogs. The apartment, they were gonna evict us. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I came home, and even after coming home, I've been home for a little over 2 years now. But even after coming home, I still didn't have that sense of urgency that I need to run back to God. You know, it was like, I'll be fine.
I'm home now, right? I'm home now.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for my disability. I'll be fine. Yeah. And then I wasn't fine. I was about this close to ending my life when I just cried out to God. I says, God, I don't know what to do. I need you right now, because without you, I can't do anything. And my aunt Connie, who's watching, she messaged Pastor Matthew, and he gave her the number here at the house and said she needs to talk to Phyllis. I let my pride down, which was extremely difficult, and I called. I saw her a couple of days later. She says, give you 24 hours to think about it. I prayed the entire night, and then I called her and I says, I'm coming. And she goes, okay, be here on this date. And I went, okay. I called Pastor Matt, and it was the first time I had talked to Pastor Matt in probably 6 months.
And Pastor Matt was our associate pastor that started Grace Fellowship. For those that know, that was your pastor for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And your friends, your dad was like best friends with him.
Yes. Yep.
So to admit defeat to someone that you admired, and you used the word pride, and I think that is something that sometimes will kill somebody before they ask for help. To say, I need help. I get often told, because I have a disability, you could just ask for help. It's like,
I know, and it's difficult.
It's very
difficult.
But sometimes it's a life or death situation.
Yes, and for me it really was. So I got here. I arrived on 9/11 of 2023, and I thought that was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. And ever since then, like I went through the program, I started getting into my word, and it was like, it was alive to me in a way that it never had been before. I'm like, why hadn't I never seen this? And I got deeper into prayer, and my worship was even different. And I'm like, wow, like, how did I miss this before? Well, it's like looking back, like my relationship with Jesus was surface.
Yeah.
A lot of it was, well, you're the worship leader's daughter. Of course, this is where you're supposed to be. So of course, I know the Christianese, I can get there.
Yep.
I know how to talk the talk, but it wasn't inside.
Yeah.
And so over the last, I've been here almost 2 years, and it's just like, wow. If you had told me a year ago that I'd be doing what I'm doing, I'd be like, no way. Um, but within the last year, like God really started showing me, excuse me.
That's okay. It's the hope that you found. That's what it is. My Andy just said, "Try being a pastor's kid." We're the worst. We're the worst.
Yeah. I know. I hung out with all you guys.
Hey. What you're talking about, though, Veronica, is that you found faith for you.
Yes.
Such a common thing to have, especially people who grew up in church with parents in church leadership. We do have the Christianese thing kind of down pat. And
Yep.
it's like, for me, the moment that I had right before I got baptized at the Baldwin's Pond when I was 15 years old, almost 16, I guess I was, the youth pastor at my summer camp preached on the 10 virgins in oil. And what I realized is I had been borrowing my parents' oil.
Ooh, yep.
Like, that I had not been finding faith for myself. Like, I knew all the things.
Yep.
And I even believed them.
Yep.
Right here, intellectually.
Yes.
I knew that God was real. I knew that Jesus was real. I know that I didn't want to go to hell. That sounded like a terrible idea. Right. I knew all the rules that I needed to keep to go to heaven. But it wasn't here. It wasn't. I like to use the phrase, I used to grew up hearing this, that I didn't know in my knower.
Yep.
Like my spirit didn't know it. And I think that that's what you've discovered for the first time in your life, is that,
oh yeah,
that hope, the person you met.
Yes.
Like, the person hope. My brother preached a sermon. Don't tell him it was good, because I don't like to brag on my brother, but Brian preached a sermon, maybe 10 years ago, about the man named Hope.
Oh.
That Jesus is hope embodied. It's not an emotion that you feel. It's what happens when you encounter Jesus in your life.
Yes.
In a real tangible way.
Yep.
And I think that's what you're saying there, and probably what got you emotional.
Well, that, and the fact that, like, the last year, I've seen God's hand on my life more substantially, more in a tangible way than ever. Within the last year, I've experienced the loss of all the toes on my feet. I've gone through several surgeries in the last year, and the only way I got through them it was just like, I just knew that God was with me. I knew it beyond a shadow of a doubt. I still know it, and it blows my mind, because it's like, not only was he walking, I don't even want to say he was walking with me. He was carrying me through that.
Yeah.
But I had everybody here at the house surrounding me in prayer. Yeah. They were walking through it with me. They were telling me, okay, Veronica, we're not going to stay in this pity party. We're choosing joy today, because the joy is going to be your strength. So it's like, okay, I'm choosing joy. And my first hospital stay in August, I was in there for 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's a long time. I remember that was a long time.
Oh God, it was horrible.
Hospital food for 3 weeks.
Actually, I will have to say, the hospital food's pretty good, but they have a limited selection.
Yes, you're like, I'm a little bored.
What have I not tried today?
I don't know this person, but do you know this person, Sonia Rose? She said, "Hi, my beautiful girl."
Yes, I do. Hi, Sonia.
Andy said he was with you the whole time. You just needed help to see him.
That's right. Yep. And I think sometimes, being humans, being so finite in our thinking, we all have that moment where we get that, I think a friend of mine calls it an aha moment, a God moment.
Yep.
Where it's so real, you can reach out and just grab it.
Yep.
And I know that during the whole last year, going through what I went through with my feet, I know God gave me the gift of faith to go through it.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't ever really scared to go through it. And my last surgery, that one was really interesting, because I was in the doctor's office. The nurse came in, she unwrapped my foot, and I'm like, and she went out, and I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, and this thought came in my head. I heard it almost if somebody had said it. One last surgery. I'm like, nah, I'm just hearing things. And about 3 minutes later, my doctor walks in. She's looking at my foot. The infectious disease doctor's there. They're both looking at it. And she looks at me and says, well, Veronica,
One more surgery.
And I cried for 2 reasons. One, I did not want another surgery, but 2, it confirmed that God was still right there.
He was right there.
Told me, and he said it was the last one.
Yeah.
And since then, like my feet, that surgery, that actually healed faster than all the rest of them.
Yeah.
You know, within 2 weeks, all the stitches were out, and a week later, I was walking on it.
Wow.
I'm like, that's God.
That's God.
You know, and then and I was recently blessed with a vehicle.
Amazing! Yay!
A very sweet couple from Grace. I can't mention their names.
That's okay. God knows.
I had been praying about a vehicle, and God knew, God and I had this talk, exactly what kind of vehicle I need to have, because I got to be able to get in and out, because I'm not the stablest anymore.
It's girls, same.
Yeah, and they ended up gifting me a 2014 Chevy Equinox, even in the color that I was asking God for.
Amazing. God is in the details, isn't he? He's a God who concerns. Even the sparrow doesn't go without food. And that's one thing that sometimes I call it, my sister-in-law, Hannah, she would call it a God breeze, just because he can.
Yep.
Not because he has to, but just because he can.
Just because he can, yes.
Hey, I just want you to know that I see you. I see not just your need, but your want, that some people say, oh, it's silly.
Yeah.
My brother says here it's because the Lord returns those things that the locust took.
Yes. And actually, I was just reading that the other day, and I was like, wow, because there's certain things that I've really been praying for that it's like, wow, I'm really seeing how he's returning those things that just, even in my stupidity, I lost. Right. He's saying, okay, now I'm restoring it to you. I've redeemed you. Now I'm restoring you. And I'm flabbergasted. I'm in awe. Like, even with my family, my aunt and my cousin are watching.
Yeah.
And I think my sister's in bed. She gets up really early.
I know she's an old lady. I'll tell her that. She'll probably watch. You're an old lady, Rebecca.
And my nephew, I got to bring my younger nephew to church with me a few weeks ago, and when he was 3, I led him in the Lord's Prayer. But he didn't remember it. When he was at church with me, it was probably about a month ago now, he said the prayer again. Amazing. And he's got a grown-up Bible now. Pastor Matt gave him a grown-up Bible, and he says, Auntie, I even downloaded a Bible app on my phone, and it sends me a reminder every night, so I read before I go to bed. And I'm like, wow. And
things that you probably thought were dreams.
Yes. Yep.
I told somebody today, the verse that God gave me is that he'll give me more than I can ask for or imagine, exceedingly and abundantly more.
Yes.
Ask or imagine. That's the verse that the Lord gave me for this year. And I love the idea that it's more than I could ask, or even I have a big imagination. Okay.
I know.
I got to come crazy ideas up here. But I love the idea that God gives us more, exceedingly and abundantly more than we could ask or even imagine, even think of, even come to, that God says, just hang on. My plans are better. Yes. And they look really different. I was actually texting with a friend tonight, and I said, she said to me, nothing surprises God. I said, no, it's all in his hands. Before you were formed in your mother's womb,
yes,
he knew you.
Yep.
And he had called you to things, and there's things in your life that you don't even know about yet, but he does.
Yep. It's like it's Psalm 139 talks about that. My days were written in your book before I had any.
Yeah.
Like, we look at that and it's like, but how can you know so much, God? But nothing surprises him. He had it all figured out before we were even formed. And It's like, wow, really? You took the time to think of me.
Yep.
In this whole scheme of everything, you thought of me.
Yep.
And
he wants us to live in that hope. And I think that that's what's so beautiful about the place that he has you now, is that, your testimony is not wasted.
Yeah.
It's not wasted. It was costly to you. And I'm sure there's a lot of healing that you've walked through and that you're still going to walk through.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what you're still going to walk through. But
Yep.
now you can help others
Yes.
find that hope. And that's really what this whole Jesus thing is about.
It is. It
really
really
is.
is. Yep.
We try to make the gospel like so complicated, and some people try, you have to be great theologians, who go to Bible study. And I love what Pastor Matt uses this analogy that we're just beggars showing other beggars where the bread is.
Yep.
And I love that analogy, but the reality is, and I'll tweak it a little bit, tweak it a little bit, that we're not beggars anymore.
Right.
We're children actually of the baker, right? The guy who's got the bread, and we're just saying, hey, if you come over here to my dad's house,
yeah,
he'll provide everything you need. And I think that we live, and the United States in particular is riddled with people without hope from life circumstances. I know I'm not going to twerk, Andy. Don't worry.
I'm not either, Andy.
Don't worry. We'll leave that to you youngsters. You young kids. But the reality is there is an epidemic of addiction. There is an epidemic of domestic violence and terrible, terrible marriages on both sides. We're talking about women tonight because that's what House of Hope, but it equally goes to both sides.
It does.
And it's something that's not talked about enough. Addiction, different things that you've talked about, but also Andy says he doesn't have the knees for twerking anymore. Yeah, me either. But addiction and domestic violence and really just running out of hope.
Yes.
I was sharing with somebody who I'm praying will reach out to Phyllis. I've shared the information over and over again with them. And I said to them, the way you're doing life is not working.
Yep.
And the reality is, and I just shared this with a friend today, is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and hoping for a different outcome.
That's right. Yep.
And there's a lot of people that are living life that way. That's like a hamster wheel. They're working really, really hard to just survive.
Yep.
They're in survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, which sounds like you were in,
I was.
Do anything to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you'll do things that most of the time when, you're in survival mode, I always think, and this is like if you're squeamish, turn away. The movie Alive, the guys that ended up being cannibals in order to survive, something that you're like, I would never do that. But when you're in survival mode, you will do anything to stay alive.
It's true. It's true. And you will do anything to, and it may not even be to stay alive. It may be to feel like you're alive.
Yeah.
Is that sin snags you because it feels so good.
Yep.
And after a while, it just leaves you empty.
Yep.
And that's where I was. I was so empty. And God has shown me my worth. It's like I had a conversation with a friend of mine today. I says, I'm worth more than somebody's second choice.
That's right.
I'm worth more than plan B.
Yep.
I am the plan. I
am the plan.
I'm worth that. I've been treated poorly.
Yeah.
I know that my daddy has good things in store for me. And that's something I don't want to compromise that anymore. I'm not willing to. I want his best so that I can share it with others. Yeah. He always does things. He does things for our benefit, but they're always for his glory.
That's right. That's right.
So like my feet. Okay. I'm still trying to figure out how my me being toeless benefits me, but it's brought him so much glory. I was able to share his love.
Right.
Every time I stayed in the hospital.
And I think that the thing for me, having been chronically ill, that I am, and I spend a lot of time in hospitals or hospital waiting rooms or whatever, one thing that I've gleaned from it personally is that the intimacy that I have with the Lord, I never, ever would have gotten had I not had to be dependent on him for every step that I have to take every moment. I get up in the morning and I say, Lord, you hold the foundations of the earth together. You can hold my joints together today. Like, this is
That's
nothing.
right. Yeah.
But that intimacy, and like you said, when you heard the audible voice of God, right, laying in the bed, say one more, you probably never would have slowed down or heard that had you not been laying in a hospital bed needing
Right.
another surgery, right? Because of the
Yep.
position that God put you in.
Yep.
It was to bring you closer. It was like, hold on, I'm gonna strip you down here.
Yep.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
strip down and get you to a place where I can speak to you. And I think Andy says here it's an epidemic of hopelessness. And
Yep.
it is very true that we live in a society. I encounter people tomorrow night. I'll have food pantry, and I will encounter. It's like I step outside, and I look down this line. Not everybody, right? But there,
Yep.
it's like a cloud, like Eeyore. That's all I think of
Yes.
from Winnie the Pooh. Of just like
Yep.
life is heavy,
Yep.
it's hopeless.
Yep.
I'm just going through the motions to be able to just get to my next fix.
Yeah.
Or my dad here says, "We love you, Veronica."
I love you too, Pastor Mike.
He's enjoying some vacation with some grandkids right now up in
Good.
Conway, Conway, New Hampshire. I hope he goes ride a roller coaster, or at least maybe they're going to Storyland. The what do you call it?
Oh.
The teacups, you know.
Yep. Yep.
Dad likes rides. My mom's some more of a merry-go-round girl.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll go with your mom.
But God sometimes, encounters us when we are hopeless. So if someone is interested in going to House of Hope, tell them the why they shouldn't be afraid of it, because I think that keeps a lot of people from entering a place of like that. It's like, I'm going to lose everything if I go there, right? I'm going to lose my life.
Yeah, right.
That's what people say, right? I can't do that. And I've had so many people. I had a young lady, I actually was picking her up. I was going to meet her. And I want you to know, if you're listening tonight, because you might be, I will still meet you right now if you told me. I was going to meet her and take her to Phyllis, and she never showed up. And then it was a long line of, well, I have to put my stuff in storage, or I don't know what I'm going to do with my car, or my cat. And to which I said, your life matters more.
It does. It does. And, it is scary. I'll be honest. I mean, you look 6 to 8 months. I mean, okay, that's a long time. It really is not in the whole scheme of your life. 6 to 8 months is nothing. Yeah. What I've gained being at House of Hope far outweighs anything I've left behind. I wasn't able to come home with a whole lot. So I learned how to live simply. And I love that, actually. I love, like,
I need to learn that. You can come out my closet with that.
Yeah, sure. Come on. I'll help you organize.
You love that, right?
Coming in, there's so much peace here. You feel the presence of God, and there's no judgment here. All of us in this home have gone through something. Our director, Phyllis Phelps, she's gone through her own stuff. She's an amazing woman. I mean, God brought her pretty much through hell. I will say that. He brought her through hell and landed her here. If it hadn't been for her and her husband following the call of God, there's been hundreds of women that have been helped here.
Yeah. And their children.
And it's all because of the love of Jesus. They give of themselves, and I can't, like, I wish I had the words, but I don't.
I think that one thing that a lot of people, like you said, pride, is they project judgment that they think they're going to feel from some others. Like, oh, what if I do this? And I heard this recently from somebody who is a secular, blogger or whatever. So if you heard the quote, don't think I love them. I just love what they said. Is they said their daughter was being advised by her student counselor or whatever at school that she should join a bunch of clubs. And her daughter said, I don't want to join a bunch of clubs. And she's like, I just don't know how to tell her. And she was like, well, just tell her, you don't want to join clubs. You got your own thing. You play a sport, you have friends, whatever. And she said, I don't want to disappoint her.
Yep.
And she said, "Oh no, honey, you have to disappoint her." And she changed the word disappoint. You're like the fourth person. I'll say there's a lot of people watching, but the fourth person that I told this to is she changed the way I look at the word disappoint. She said, because oftentimes we don't do what's best for us because we're afraid we're going to disappoint others. But disappointing really means that you've appointed them to something.
Yeah. Yeah. You've put them up here when they're actually on the same level.
And you have to say, I know that this might embarrass you. This might disappoint you to find out that I have this problem. If you go to your family and you tell them that you're an alcoholic and they have no clue, you're going to disappoint them. But what you're doing is you're freeing yourself to actually be in the driver's seat of your recovery and to have the ability to get freedom. And my dad says he's not riding blinds. He's going to sit in a lounge chair with an umbrella. Okay. But I think there's a lot of people, and I can relate to that sometimes I say yes to people when I don't really want to, but I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint them. And I know that seems like a small thing, but there's people who don't enter recovery or get out of relationships or have marriage in because of the stigma of divorce over their life because they're afraid of disappointing people. We disappoint people because we're human.
Yeah.
You can't please everybody. You're not pizza or taco.
I mean, you could disappoint somebody just by breathing. I mean,
exactly. Yeah. It's fine.
But to come to like House of Hope or to go to Teen Challenge, you don't let fear stop you. Just because you're afraid, oh, my family's going to think this, my family's going to think that, or, oh, I got to break up with my boyfriend, what is that in the whole scheme of your life?
Right. Eternity is a long, long time.
It is. And I'd rather face eternity with no one by my side and have Jesus surrounding me than to have everybody by my side and end up in hell.
Andy said here, sadly, so many people don't believe that their life is worth the inconvenience of saving it. And you're right. That's what it is. And the little things that you have to give up to go into a place like House of Hope or Teen Challenge is relationships, cars, houses, your cat. Dogs. I mean, and your dog. I love my dog. But those are just temporary things. That's what they are.
Yep.
They're temporary things. And in the scheme of eternity, our friend Sherry Parker, both of a sweet lady, used to say that in the scheme of eternity, they don't matter.
Yep.
Your life and your relationship with Jesus is what matters. And having hope and being able to wake up and smile and look at your babies and give them a hope. I had my guest that was on last week. She talked about spiritual generations. Being able to birth out spiritual generations that your children, you can break those generational curses.
Yes. And that's something that because diabetes, just as an example. Yeah, diabetes runs on both sides of my family. So when I started having really bad trouble with my feet, I'm like, you know what, devil, that's it. This is stopping with me. I am declaring the curse broken with me. My sister will not have it, and my nephews will not have it. It's going to stop here. And what's awesome is that, me praying that and asking God to just pour his blood over my sister and her family. My sister, the only thing wrong with my sister is she's got to wear glasses. My oldest nephew has to wear glasses. They are all healthy, and another example of power of prayer. My brother-in-law was struggling with stage 4 intestinal cancer.
Yeah. I remember.
And we were all praying. And all interceding. And the doctor told him he's in remission.
Amen.
And I'm like, that's God. And I tell my sister,
God who still heals.
That's right. And I tell my sister, I says, you've got a sister who prays for you. Yeah, I know. I said, no, your sister prays for you.
That's right.
It's time to come back to church.
There's still hope. But it is true that's something that we, Aunt Hannah says here, that's right. I can eat all the things because I want. Because speak life. And it's true.
Right.
It's true that there's power in your tongue. And I think that for so many people, they don't understand that. And Houses of Hope is a place that restores hope. And that's really what your story is, that you were hopeless. And I'm going to say this. It wasn't House of Hope is a great thing, but hope is the hope that you were offered.
Yes.
The hope that you were offered was Jesus, that life can be different, the pattern of living. And for so many people, they are so blinded by the enemy that life will never be different. And
Mhm.
for many, it is that generational curse. Well, that's where my mom was. That's where my dad was. That's where my
Yep.
grandpa was. That's where all my aunt and uncles are. You know, no matter what it is, whether it's addiction, diabetes, heart disease, anger,
Yes.
pride,
Yep.
any of those things that we could break down a long list, right, of things that the enemy uses for generations. And really what it is, House of Hope taught you a different way of living.
Yes. Yep. Yep. That's true. I
A
mean,
different way of living it. And what they really handed you was hope. And that hope is Jesus.
yes.
Because the reality is we've seen, and there's a bunch of people probably going to hate this, we've seen the world system for recovery. And
And it doesn't work.
it doesn't work. A lot of women end up dead from their partners. That's just real. Because they say, well, you guys should go to couple therapy or just separate for a time, and they go back. Addiction, they go through. I had a friend that committed suicide because he was going through a state-led treatment program, and he decided that he was going to go off of the medication that was prescribed for him for recovery, and he took his life.
Yep.
That's real. And the pattern of living here, I know this one man where he feels like he's at the brink of death. He puts himself in the retreat for 3 weeks, gets out, and goes back drinking again, because he's afraid he's going to die. That's not change. That's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Connie says, I'm so happy that Phyllis and House of Hope were there for Veronica and all the women. They're amazing. Andy says, it's not a recovery system. It's a replacement program.
Mm-hmm.
That's too real, Andy, but it's true.
It is.
And the difference is that when you are in Christ and what you've experienced is you're a new creature.
Yes.
All things are gone.
Yes.
That old Veronica, she don't exist no more.
Yep. And one of the things that was really big for me, because you've known me for so long.
Hey, stop. We're young and vivacious.
Yes, we are. One of the things that I've always struggled with is my self-worth.
Yeah.
I've always been so self-conscious because of my size, and because now I'm a lot smaller than I was back then, even though I'm still, but that was something that really broke here too, was the fact that it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks.
That's right.
My daddy says I'm beautiful.
Right.
My daddy says I'm worthy. So it doesn't matter if, so-and-so down the street hollering, hey, Fatso, it doesn't matter, because I know who I belong to. I know who my daddy is.
Right.
And I know who I am.
Right.
I'm a daughter of the Most High God. How dare you speak to me that way?
I just said to a friend today about a situation. I said, the difference between them and you is that you know Jehovah. That's the God that you serve. And that's the difference, is now you're living out the call that God has on your life. And it looks really different than probably what 14-year-old Veronica thought her life was going to look.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
25-year-old Veronica or Bible college Veronica, very different, right?
Yep, it is. And I wouldn't trade any of it. Everything I've gone through with my feet the last year, and everything I've learned through it, if I had to do it all over again to learn it all, I would. Would I love to have my toes and my feet restored? Absolutely. But what I've gained is so much more valuable than my toes. And I remember saying to God, praying when I asked God, these aren't even mine.
Right.
These are your toes.
Right.
You paid for them.
Right.
So you do with them what you will, and I will still praise you no matter what. And I'm here. I'm doing what I love. I'm doing what I'm good at. And he's got more in store for me that I am
exceedingly and abundantly more.
Yes. I'm excited and I'm terrified at the same time.
Well, that's a wrap, Veronica. It's 9:00. I told you time fly with having fun. So I'm going to put the information up on the podcast. If anybody wants to reach out to House of Hope and Phyllis or Veronica about someone in your life that needs a place like House of Hope, or if you yourself, or even if you're looking for a recovery and you're a man, reach out to me and I'll give you teen challenges. I actually know most of the guys here in Vermont that run the programs, and as I'm sure Phyllis does as well, and you guys
Yep,
as well. Or if you're a couple and you're looking to change life, it can happen, and God will restore what the locusts have eaten, and He will give you hope,
Yes.
because God loves you and He has a wonderful plan for your life, one for hope in the
Yes.
future. Veronica Rizzi, thank you for being on the podcast. I will see you guys in a little bit over a month.